All right, we saw a lot of that yesterday afternoon. You see it there, stones, small stones being thrown at the Liberal leader. Police now in London, Ontario, where that happened, have launched an investigation into the gravel throwing incident. Protests against Liberal leader Justin Trudeau are increasingly becoming aggressive over the last couple of weeks. Party leaders are condemning what you just saw.
It is absolutely unacceptable that people be throwing things and endangering others at a political rally.
I disagree with Mr. Trudeau all the time, but it is absolutely wrong to be throwing stones. I mean, I can't imagine that I'm saying this in 2021, don't throw stones at people because you disagree with them.
It's completely unacceptable to see harassment of political figures, of media. We live in a great democracy, and let's act like we do.
How do you balance the security risks associated with these demonstrations with the right of people to protest? Pierre-Yves Bourduas is the former RCMP Deputy Commissioner, and he is in Ottawa. Deputy Commissioner, very good to have you on the program. I just want to start, when you saw that video, I mean, admittedly it's small stones, but when you looked at the Liberal leader moving through a crowd surrounded by many police officers, what struck you?
Well, these types of incidents are troubling, but should they be surprising? I don't think so. Personally, you have to go back to January of 2019 when the then clerk of the Privy Council, Michael Wernick, actually indicated in front of a parliamentary committee that he had serious concerns about the safety of elected officials that were going to enter into an election in 2019. Then you fast forward to July 2nd, 2020, when someone armed tried to force his way through the gates of Rideau Hall in order to try to reach the Prime Minister. And if you'll recall, he was arrested before he could actually reach the official residence. So there are a chain of events here that have unfolded over the last 2-3 years that is problematic for the Prime Minister protective details and the security of other people that are trying to seek election in this particular format. You have to add an additional layer to this, the current health crisis and the pro-anti-vax and all the emotions that surround these types of public discourse. And of course, people are pushing the right to democracy a little too far. And this is the role of the RCMP and other law enforcement agencies to act accordingly in order to find and strike the right balance between the right to our democracy, the right to people to attend political gathering without fearing for their own safety. Okay, well, let me jump in on you there. When you look at that video, was the right balance struck? Well, it's of course, you're into an election. You have to also bear in mind that our current Prime Minister has been raised, surrounded by our RCMP and protective details on account of his father's role. So he's quite familiar with the risk associated, and he gets briefed before each and every event. The RCMP is trying to gather as much information as possible in order to ensure the maximum safety. Of course, the incident that happened yesterday is obviously disturbing. But however, these are the type of incident that are creating a raised awareness for protective details that are surrounding the current Prime Minister and other political leaders that are seeking re-election. So protesters obviously have a right to demonstrate, and that right is and should be protected. But should they have been face-to-face with the protective detail, with the Liberal leader immediately behind those people carrying out that level of protection, given the level of aggression in the crowd? I agree that it's something that is deeply disturbing. However, the discussion has happened, and the Prime Minister and the protective details were keenly aware of the environment, the surrounding environments. And if you'll recall, they will not hesitate to cancel events like it happened a week ago, or even during the last, during the last federal election, where the event was delayed by 90 minutes because they were reassessing the level of threat. And if you'll recall, the Prime Minister at the time was obviously wearing a bulletproof vest as well.
Would you be surprised if the Liberal leader was wearing a bulletproof vest again on this campaign?
I wouldn't be surprised. Again, David, it's each situation is analyzed, and again, and the Prime Minister indicated this, and I'm also happy to hear that the leaders of the other political parties have clearly expressed their shock in relation to the events that are unfolding, because this is truly an attack on our democracy. People have the right to protest, I agree. But when protests turn violence and the law-abiding citizens that want to attend these political rallies in order to hear and make for themselves a decision comes vote time, it's troubling to see that protesters are pushing the envelope to the point where it also not only is an attack to the safety and security of our elected official, but also people that want to take part in our democratic process.
Mm-hmm. Can I just ask you about the scene that was carried out yesterday? I mean, admittedly, these were just small stones, and there's only so much damage a small stone can do to an individual or to property. But I think a lot of people are looking at what happened and comparing it to what might happen in the United States. Admittedly, a very different security environment and very different with the U.S. president. But there are very large setbacks between where anyone can be relative to the U.S. president. And if somebody tries something, it's like an anvil falls out of the sky and crushes them. When you look at what happened yesterday, are you surprised that there was not someone immediately on an individual throwing rocks, because they wouldn't have been that far away, or that someone made the decision to move the Liberal leader through that crowd, given the situation we then saw unfold?
Well, again, the law enforcement agencies that have jurisdiction will, of course, investigate. And as the Prime Minister indicated, it'll be up to the law enforcement and the RCMP to determine if charge should be laid in light of the evidence that will be gathered. But I agree with you that there are risks associated with the Prime Minister moving into a crowd where obviously there are people that are hostile to his policies. But again, it's predicated upon what the intelligence is actually telling the law enforcement agency in full discussion, transparent and clear discussion with the Prime Minister.
Pierre-Yves Bourduas, thank you so much for filling us in. Really appreciate it.
Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video.